Hey, everybody, we're just waiting just a little bit, give some people some time to come in, and then we're going to go in about 1 minute. So thanks for joining. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and go with it here. Good evening, everybody. Q loves you. Coming to you live. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for the first episode of Mindful Mondays, where we're going to chat a little bit with some real people about real stories and 100% real. Let's just get that straight. 100% real. So this concept kind of came about from the information disinformation aspect, bombardment, if you will, over the last couple months. And for me, when this all started, I was certain about things that I was absolutely like guaranteed they were a certain way, if that makes sense. But as time passed, and all this has gone on, I became a little more scrambled. I think I needed some truth. As I started speaking out to some of my friends, I realized that a lot of them are feeling the same way. And also during this time, I realized that there were a lot of amazing stories that have been occurring over the last couple of months that I feel, after having some pretty great conversations, that they needed to be shared with you. So this isn't to, these stories may not answer any questions for you per se, but at least they'll give you a little insight into some reality. And if we can help one person out there just kind of figure out what is or what isn't going on, I'll be happy with that. So, we're going to be doing this weekly on Mondays, 7:00. Give it a shot. We have a couple people lined up here in the next few weeks. And it's going to be a lot of fun. But for now, what I'd like to do is get things started a little bit. I'd like to introduce to you my co-host tonight, who is also my host on our comedy show Throwdown Thursdays, Mr. Patrick Ney, everybody. So say hello, Patrick, here.
What's happening? Yes. Huey, Louie, what's going down, everybody? How are you? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thanks for coming out, Pat. I appreciate you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we're going to take a little something different from what we typically have done and go away from the comedy. Tonight's a little more serious, but it'll be a nice discussion. So I'm excited to see what you guys think. The other thing is sharing is caring. So if you're watching this, a couple things, please do us a favor. You can share the Facebook to your timeline. There's a little button you can share a couple things here. You can also go to share direct. You can go direct message if you want on Facebook to help get a little love and bring some people to the page. Also, remember to follow and like Q Loves You All on Facebook and Q Loves You All on Instagram. It'd be great to keep you posted and updated on everything else we've got going on. Now, our guest this evening has been literally through hell and back. He and his wife had a very near-death experience. Both of them had near-death experiences here with COVID. And, I had a chance to speak to him. And when I got the story, I thought this was really the catalyst to why we're doing this tonight. He was the first story that I heard. And I was like, okay, this is really happening. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take a break and we're going to go try something else. So he's a very good friend of mine. And we'll get to the heart of it, but he's the director of Susan G. Komen, LA County, the executive director of Susan G. Komen, LA County, and a buddy. Everybody meet Mark Pilon. Hello,
Thank
Mark.
you. Thank you. How you doing?
Hey,
Patrick. Nice
hey,
nice
nice to see you, Mark.
Good to see you, bud.
I'll tell you, the beard, but nobody else knows this really, unless you know Mark, but the beard, it's looking good. You're looking clean. I tell you what, we don't have to discuss your age, but you look better than I do right now. And I'm telling you, he's a little older than I am. All right. But
yeah, like he could call me Papa. He could call me Papa.
I could call you Papa. It'd be a little weird, but I mean, we won't get into all that stuff.
You
Patrick,
usually call him Daddy.
Yeah, I knew you were gonna.
Daddy.
Well, so Mark and I talked about this, briefly when he told me the story again, it was really something special. And again, the insight that you're going to get from Mark's story is just that this is real. It's 100% real. It really happened to somebody. The COVID thing is legit, and not talking about or the angles or all the other stuff that's going on. We're just focusing on this story and whatever you're going to get from him. So just a little backstory of Mark and I. What we met, I guess it's been coming up, well, about a year, right?
About a year, yeah.
About a year. A little over, when my sister Angela she battled cancer, breast cancer. She found out at the end of 2018. That's when I decided to make a change into what I'm doing now. I used to be in the restaurant world, as Mark, I believe you were too, correct? For a long time.
Years ago, yeah.
Years ago. And I got wind of, I was trying to decide what I want to do and help out the cause. And a friend of mine introduced us to Susan G. Komen, and Mark really was, Mark and his group really helped we did this really great fundraising concert with a bunch of bands and comedians. And it was a really, it wasn't a special.
It was a wonderful night. It was a wonderful night.
It was a beautiful night, and it was really healing. And that was really a bonding moment. And we had a late night in some aspect, didn't we? But it was good. It was really fun. So
is that a drug reference?
No, I would never talk about THC and cancer in California. We would never do that. Anyway, no, never. But so, I hadn't talked to you in a little bit. And when I came across you on Facebook, and I heard this on Facebook that all of a sudden was it 2 months now, I guess, right? Right around 2 months.
Yeah.
The end of February, right at the beginning of March, right?
Yeah, it was right at the beginning of March when I started getting sick. Yeah. And
I saw some, of course, we started this thing. I see this thing on Facebook that you're in the ICU, and I'm like, oh my God. I remember I reached out to one of your friends to get some insights, some people I knew, and you were talking. So I knew it was okay at that point. I'm not going to spoil it. Obviously you're here, but you were talking, and that was a good sign. So I gave you some time to relax. And so we reached out via, the other day. So listen, I just wanted to have you kind of start off and just tell us a little bit about your experience and where how this all started and where it came about.
All right. Well, I was born.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not really sure where I picked it up. I have my suspicions, and I know the timing of when I backed it up, and it was somewhere around the first week of March. And I was watching this on the news like everybody else, and just wondering what was going on. And then I remember the first thing that struck me is I went downstairs to the cafeteria one day to get lunch. And I'm looking at the menu.
Is that Susan?
Yeah, Susan Komen, yeah. And I'm looking at the menu and going, yeah, that doesn't look good. No, that doesn't. And I love that, but I don't want that today. Nothing. My taste buds went first, and my sense of smell. So it's funny how that so controls what you want, and I had no desire to eat. I would come home, Tina would make a great meal, and I'd be like, yeah, that's nice, but nothing got to me. Then I started getting headaches, and I never get headaches.
Hey, Mark, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Because you're going over the symptoms and stuff. Like, some of us have had migraines, some of us had all kinds of things. What are those headaches like?
They were pretty beastly, Patrick. I like I said, for somebody that doesn't get headaches.
Yeah, because I don't really either. That's my reason I'm asking.
They were kind of debilitating, like to where light bothered me.
Wow.
And I kept the lights off in the office and stuff like that. So I guess that would have been migraine worthy, but I don't know, because I don't know that I've ever had a migraine. Yeah. And then I started with the dry cough. So I finally got a hold of my doctor, and I said, look, something's wrong. And he's been my doctor for 25 years. So we're like friends. And I said, can you, just call me in a Z-Pack or something? He said, well, come on in. So he looked at me and he said, probably bronchitis, but just because of your history, because I've got some asthma and stuff. He said, let me go ahead and have you checked out. Well, trying to get a test was like pulling teeth. I had a fever. I was coughing. I'd lost my appetite, but that still my fever wasn't high enough to get tested. So
what's high enough? What's high enough?
When it finally got up to 103.9,
wow.
Then they said, yeah, you might have this. So I went in and tested on St. Patrick's Day. I found out the next day that I was positive. And then the day after that, then they had Tina come in because my wife has COPD. And so they tested her and she was positive. I was probably about 4 or 5 days in front of her as far as symptoms. But at one point, we were both just sick as dogs. We're sleeping in 2 separate bedrooms. As soon as I found out, and I was coughing a lot, I slept in another room just because of in case this is, I don't want you to get it.
Okay.
You know.
And so but you both were at home. You hadn't been brought to the hospital, none of that
No,
stuff.
we hadn't been brought to the hospital or anything. And finally, I went to the hospital one day on a Monday, on the 23rd, and they said, "No, you're okay. Little shadows on the chest X-ray, but go home and try to work through this." Well, then 2 days later, I came back and I had double pneumonia. I went back and I finally looked at Tina on Wednesday and I said, I cannot do this. I can't take care of myself. I can't take care of you. And I can't even drive myself there. Call an ambulance. So she did.
Wow.
And so I went in an ambulance, which, by the way, is the worst ride for the most expensive ride in the world. Horrible suspension systems on those things. I'm just telling you, you get jostled, you get bumped, and then you get the bill and you went, Jesus, I should have just called a stretch and had a stretch limousine take me, I would, A, arrive in style, B, you're comfortable. But I don't think they take you into emergency any faster if you do that. So anyway, got an emergency, double pneumonia. They clocked me in checked me into the hospital. And I was in there for 2 days. And then she came in 2 days later. And I was in isolation ICU. And then she was right down the hall from me. But we couldn't see each other. We could only talk to each other on the phone.
Wow. How far were your family members able to go in and out? Were they able to come to the doors? Were they outside?
No. At that time, there was no visitation at all at the hospital from anybody. So the kids couldn't come in. They couldn't go to a window and tap on a window or anything like that because we were in a secluded part of the hospital. And
what hospital were you in?
St. Joseph's down in Orange.
Mm-hmm.
And excellent care. They took great care of us.
Well, you were there pretty early, so we
were some of the first ones that were hospitalized in Orange County. And then on the 3rd day that I was there, finally they talked to me about this hydrochloroquine, the malaria drug. So I opted for it, and I said, yeah, I feel so bad. I couldn't feel a hell of a lot worse. So
wow,
give it to me.
Okay.
So they did, and it was after about the 4th day, I finally started feeling a turn for the better. But I'll tell you, that stuff gives you the strangest, the most violent nightmares I've ever had in my life. And I've had some pretty violent nightmares, but I'm talking Godfather shit here. I mean, it was like,
wow,
pony heads,
murderous,
like
bloody, just
yeah, blah, blah, blah. Weird stuff. And so then,
sorry to stop you there, Mark, for a second. The hydrochloroquine, you said 3 to 4 days. Was that a normal time frame with that, or did you notice?
I don't think that there had at the time they hadn't established a normal yet.
Got it.
They gave it to us, and then they just kept checking, and my fever had gone down, and I started feeling a little bit better. I could at least sit on the side of the bed, because up until then I couldn't even do that. I couldn't hold myself up in a seated position.
And so, how long did the nightmares last?
It was about 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the whole time while you basically were on it, when you were kicking it, you were having.
Yeah. But in the meantime, it was working, so that was fine.
Well, because like nightmares are really stressful. As a child, that's like a game changer. So I mean, the mind can play serious tricks. It's like that's some intense shit.
It is. And when you're already wondering about, they came in and say, if we can't get your oxygen, bring it down a little bit and get your oxygen saturation up, we may have to ventilate. I'm going, no.
Oh,
I don't want that to happen. So that never did happen. That never did happen for either one of us. So anyway, I start recuperating some. I come home, and then as I was leaving the hospital on April 1st, I couldn't go in and see her or anything. They rode me by her sliding door in her isolation ICU room, and I got to blow her a kiss, go like this, and wave, and that was it. And then we didn't see each other for 5.5 weeks.
Wow.
5.5 weeks. Now, Mark, how long have you guys been married?
We've married 37 years. We've been together 40. And we've
When was the
never been
last
apart more than 9 days.
That was my question.
Yeah.
Longest. Oh my gosh. Oh my
And
gosh.
so, it just, plus you're worried. It's not like you're doing two different things. I'm out fishing and she's, at the casino with her aunts. I mean, this was like, I can't get to you. I can't hold your hand when you're scared. And then we'll fast forward to about a week later. She was in the hospital she was sicker with the COVID for longer than I was. I got out in 7 days. Finally, on day 11, she was going to come home. So I called her at 10:15 in the morning. And she was like, oh my God, I can't wait to come home and take a hot shower and just scrub my hair and dot, 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 dot. And then the nurses came into her room and she said, let me go. I said, okay, I'll call you back in a few minutes.
So totally normal. She was totally fine. Like,
yeah, it was totally fine. And I was going to pick her up at about 2 or 2:30 and bring her home. So I called back in 15 minutes and all she could do was moan and groan and in pain. And she was like, oh. And I kept saying, honey, are you, say your name, say my name. And my son was here. So I called him and I yelled for him and Dan came over. And I said, keep talking to her. I'm going to get on the landline and call the ICU nurse's desk because I think she's having a stroke. Because my dad had one. I had an uncle that had one. And I kind of recognized it. She couldn't say my name. She couldn't say anything. And so I called the desk and I'm not blasting the nursing service. There was somebody that was kind of immature that was answering the phones at that moment. When I said, Mrs. Pilon is in distress. I need somebody in there right now. Oh, we were just in there 5 minutes ago. She's really good. I said, I'm telling you, I think she's having a stroke. I need somebody in there. She goes, well, so-and-so's on their break. And I lost it. And I said, I don't really give an expletive who's on their break.
Yeah.
I said, I want somebody in there. I've got her on the other phone. I'm timing you. You better hurry. They did get in there fast. They got her down for her CAT scan and were able to give her that TPA shot, which has to be administered within a 2-hour
I
time
was
frame.
just gonna say that's got to be like you got to be on it or.
Yeah. And so then they called back.
What would have been the outcome? I mean, a lot of people may know, but do you know the outcome if you wouldn't have had that shot?
No, I wouldn't have that shot. She could have been completely paralyzed. She could have had a whole lot of other things go wrong. That shot helps mitigate a lot of stroke damage immediately if they can get it to you.
Wow.
And so the weird thing was, thank God she had it while she was in the hospital. Because if I had picked her up and brought her home and let's say got her upstairs, got her tucked in, and she said, look, I just want to take a nap for a couple of hours, I would have come downstairs. I wouldn't have bugged her. And if she would have had a stroke then, I could have gone up to either being a widower or had somebody that was in horrible condition. Because she actually had 2 strokes. She had one on each side. She had a bilateral.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
And so thank God she has all of her motor skills, but she was in the hospital for another 2 weeks there. And then they sent her to rehab facility for 10 days.
Wow.
So she was gone a total of 5.5 weeks by the time I brought her home.
5.5 weeks.
And that was like an eternity. It was just like an eternity, and I couldn't see her. I could FaceTime her and talk, but she's doing really, really well now. She's got all of her motor skills. She gets up and gets her own coffee. We make the bed together and everything. She just doesn't have the speech yet. And being that she is now on oxygen, where she wasn't on oxygen before. She's on oxygen 24/7 now.
Which is not an oxygen tank. You were explaining to me earlier.
It's not a tank. Yeah, it's the converter that they have that it pulls the oxygen out of the air and converts it to pure oxygen, and then that's what she utilizes.
So now you were also saying to me earlier, give me some examples of all you said right now. It's her speech. Like,
I was just saying, Patrick, that after being married this long, number one, we happen to think we're 2 of the funniest people in the world, and we don't really care what the popular opinion poll is on that. It works for us. Right. And so some of the things that she's dealt with, what was it? I was telling you that she was trying to talk to me about a friend of mine that had passed away. His name is John. But I was thinking alive, so I'm throwing out all these names. And she said, your friend John Mellencamp. And I said, yeah, we're not really buddies, but that would be nice. I wouldn't mind running around with him a little bit, but and then once Mellencamp was there, she couldn't get it out of her head. And then finally I hit on the guy's name and she said, John Herklotz. So it was that. And then my daughter was here and we were going over some things and she was trying to tell us about how she likes a certain sweet, or she wanted a certain sweet. And it was like, okay, that's not a revelation. We know you like ice cream and candy and everything. And she said, like sea urchins. And then she looked at herself and went, well, so where the hell did sea urchins come from? And then she couldn't get it out of her head. And she kept saying, yeah, I like sea urchins. And I'm going, no, you don't. They're ugly little prickly things and they're not fun, But then eventually we got to the fact that it was lemon bars is what we were talking about.
Close. That's close.
Yeah, they're very similar.
It should have been right there on the tip of my tongue. But we just laugh at stuff like that and then try to work through it and figure out what she's saying and what she wants to say.
Well, and so now I called you the other day. You were busy painting the upstairs, your navy and white. Yeah. Was that the
navy and white? That's one of the rooms. I did interior design for years and years and years. And I not too long ago repainted the dining room, the living room, and the foyer, and the upstairs, going upstairs. And then we redid our master bath completely because we wound up with this leak, and they had to rip the house from stem to stern. And then we got a new powder room out of it, a new master bathroom. So I'm saying now that we're sleeping downstairs now. I converted the dining room into a bedroom.
That's what I was getting at. What I was getting at.
But she doesn't have to use the stairs and all this stuff and yet. So then I'm like, okay, then while I got her downstairs and she doesn't have to be around all the mess and the smell, I'm painting the bedrooms. I'm going to paint our new room, our bedroom, a new color that hasn't painted in 10 years. So this is how, not that it needed a stroke to be able to do it, but at least she's good enough where she's now just going, whatever, just whatever, so by the time I have her go back upstairs, it'll be all new and it'll be done. Well, so I have like probably 2 months that I better haul my butt and whatever little projects I want to finish up, I got to finish up because she's a very neat freak. And you saw my office, not so much. I know where all these stacks are and I know what all these things mean. But for the rest of the world, it's a hurricane that just happened, But we're doing good. We're doing good. But it's a scary, real thing, and it hits hard. And one of the things that I was saying to Ryan is that
by the way, that's me. By the way.
Cute. Yeah. No, only my kid and you call him Ryan.
Well, I didn't call him Mr. Quass.
Yeah.
So that's his dad. But it was so weird for my kids, and they're all adults, but for them to realize, and I never thought about their perspective, is that while we were in the hospital, all they're hearing about is everybody dying from this thing, and everybody in our age range dying from this thing. And they were like, we could have lost one or both of you. And then you came home, and then she's coming home, and we're thinking, wow, that's cool. And then she turns around and she has this major stroke. And so the stress and things that was on them, wondering what was going to happen to their mom. I couldn't get a test to find out whether I was negative. So, we're still walking around with masks on and doing the social distancing in the house. My son still lives here with us. And so, it was just weird. You couldn't sit in the same room and talk to somebody. And it was very lonely. It was very, very lonely. Even having somebody around didn't fix it.
So you still, how long, wait, I'm sorry. Did you still were, when were you able to get a test?
Last Friday and last Tuesday.
Wow.
Finally, we both it has taken this long. I've been out of the hospital 5 weeks. It's taken this long to get 2 negative tests in a row. Wow. You have to have 2 negatives to be considered COVID-free. And the speech therapist wouldn't come in and work with Tina until she had 2 negative tests. And that I had to have 2 negative tests because the speech therapist knew that I had also been COVID positive. So we finally, I've been trying for 5 weeks to get it. I've been trying for 5 weeks to get the test and I couldn't get it.
So how did you get it?
My doctor finally really, really pushed on the St. Joseph's and the Hoag system to get me to do it. Because I said it was holding up her therapy. And because it was holding up her therapy, that's why they relinquished and went ahead and did it.
Wow.
It's hard for folks out there. If you weren't symptomatic, they were saving all the tests for people that were already symptomatic getting sick. I've been there, done that already. You know, I was done. So they're like, no, you're to the back of the bus. So
But,
Where do you-
but go ahead, Patrick.
No, I was wondering, where do you think, where you contracted it?
well, we happened to have a very large Komen event that weekend with 5,500 people, and I probably hugged 300 and took pictures with 200 or 300. And then, but it could have also been at the grocery store, the next day.
Yeah.
I don't know. Nobody else from the walk or anything complained that that's where they picked up a virus.
Well, and let's just talk. So that's the Susan G. Komen. That's the walk.
More Than Pink walk.
Yeah, More Than Pink walk at Dodger Stadium. They have it usually in February, March-ish, and there was a big 5,000 person, and it's all cancer patients, right? So
yeah.
So I mean, but then none of them were sick, which that's a compromised immune system, right? So that's interesting that they wouldn't have, nobody had it and they couldn't trace anything back there. But you were also, you said you only had like 1 day off in like 30 days during that time.
Yeah. So then, you're kind of worn down. I mean, my whole staff was like that. We all work like crazy people before that. A huge event like this, anybody in the event business does.
Right.
It's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
But it was just like a lot of weirdness going on.
So now, so you said your son's still there. You just got your test. You just got okayed a week ago. Is your wife done with treatment then?
No, she's still in the speech therapy.
Or speech therapy, right? That's
speech therapy. She's still in speech therapy, but it didn't require any extra medications or any other things. I mean, a couple of doctor appointments to check out with the neurologist and her pulmonologist and stuff like that. But no, she's doing well. It's just the speech is a big thing. It's she understands everything, and then she'll go to speak, and the words don't form, and it frustrates the living hell out of her.
Well, I mean, you got to say, I mean, just like, this has got to be a second renewal. We're talking about that briefly. I mean, it's got to, the appreciation, the way that you just see things has to be just catapulted in a whole nother light, right?
It is, and I'm a pretty faithful individual. I've got a pretty strong faith in my life, but I look at all of these things that happen, and without sounding like Jerry Falwell, why I picked up the phone at that minute and called her. It could have been, I could have waited another 10 minutes and completely different end result. Completely different end result, because they had come in, they had just taken care of her. They said she was fine 5 minutes ago, and they were basically letting her just relax for the next couple hours. So they weren't going to go back in there anytime soon.
Wow.
But so there was all those kinds of things. Thank God it happened in the hospital. I wouldn't have dealt with it. Well, where else if you're going to have a stroke, trust me, have it in ICU. It's a pretty good place to have it.
I mean,
you're going to get the immediate care that you need. So all of those things, as they come into to fact, there was just a whole lot of special things that happened in our favor, and that's the way I look at it. That's the way I live my life. But that's how I looked at it. It was by a miracle that it happened at that time, and that it happened there, and then it didn't happen here at home.
What we talk about, I talk about the divine choreography all the time. How it's interesting how that works, and you can choose to see it or not. It just depends on if you want to listen for it and hear the music, right, to dance. But
that's all you got to do. You got to be, I think, accepting about the fact that there's something bigger than you, and like I said, I could have waited another 10 minutes to call, but for some reason I only waited that few minutes, and then I called her back, and boom, there it was. Wow. So I'm not that smart. I'd love to say that I was omnipotent and I had these paths to all kinds of special things, but yeah, not so much.
Well, I would have to say that moving forward, you might reconsider that a little bit. I mean, you might have, you're a special guy, Mark. I mean, you have a thing about you, man. And to do what you do and how you do it it's with Susan Coleman and all of these people and these events that it takes a special individual. It takes a special individual. So maybe there's a little payback there and a little thank you and a little, however you want to look at it.
Well, if it is, then it's the only payback I ever need. She's here with me.
That's absolutely gorgeous. That's absolutely gorgeous. I really appreciate you coming on and spending some time and sharing the story. I thought it was something that, people should have heard. And, what's something that you want to say about to people that are watching this right now? What would be something that you'd like to say about this specific thing about?
I think if there's anything that I've seen, it's to open up to the possibilities. Appreciate every second, because I'm not young, but I still have that mindset that I think I'm invincible. Me, thanks for playing. Yes, that's not an absolute, and I think that just the appreciation for every little thing. I mean, the appreciation that she can say sea urchin and that we laugh like fools for 10 minutes is a great thing. That we can find humor in that and find the love in that, and just spend your life looking at the love that's out there every day in the most minuscule ways. It's there for you if you want to find it, or you can instead choose to be a grumpy old man. And I don't want to be a grumpy old man. I want to be an invincible Peter Pan that just goes on forever and ever and ever and ever, and has a great time and enjoys life and lives it with verve.
And who knows, maybe we do that and we don't realize it. You never know.
Yeah.
That's good possibility.
106 is my goal.
106? That's it?
106 is my goal. Yeah.
I don't know. They got some stuff coming on in science right now. You might put that to 206 by the time this is all done.
Well, and that's fine, because I'll enjoy every friggin' minute of it.
Well,
I will waste none of it.
What's that?
I said I will waste none of it.
Patrick, do you have any questions for?
Well, I think the biggest, it's like a point to what you've been saying, Mark, is that like people are starting, when this whole thing started, it's like, if we do what we're supposed to do and it works, people aren't going to get it. So I keep saying it's like people are having a problem because, they can't see the holes in the hands. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
And you are kind of like that. You're like, look, you want to see the holes in the hands? Come get, hang out at our house. And the problem is that people just say, fuck this. This is, this is a joke. This is like, I'm not going to get this. And so many of these people that we're seeing out there in the world are destined to go through what you did. And unfortunately, you didn't have the knowledge and the ability to stay away like we do now. But I mean, if you had had the chance to social distance when you should have, I mean, think about it. You'd be like, I'll take that. You know what I mean? And all these knuckleheads out here who are like, going to the beach and going to, bars or wherever they can go. It seems ridiculous.
Well, it speaks to, I posted something the other day and I reposted it. I didn't come up with it. It was if you were born in 1900, for somebody born in 1900, what did they live through? They lived through a terrible pandemic in 1918. They lived through World War I. They lived through the Depression. They lived through World War II. They lived through Vietnam, the Korean War, and all of these things by the time they were my age.
Yeah.
And it's like,
like 200 million people dead.
For a month or so and kind of curb your activities. We are that spoiled and we are that self-serving. And you look at the sacrifices that somebody that was born at that time had to go through, and that was our grandparents. And they were still phenomenal individuals. They lived a full life. You didn't hear them sitting around bitching and moaning about the fact that they couldn't go out and play. During World War II, all up and down the Pacific coast, you couldn't sleep with lights on in your house.
Yeah.
Once it was dusk, the lights were off in your house.
Yeah.
And that's the way it was.
But
But
they
it was,
didn't have that thing called the internet.
yeah,
And,
where everybody,
you know what you're reminding me of is there was an old Dragnet where like Joe Friday like lectures these hippies. It's like, you don't know what it was like. We lived through wars. We lived through pandemics. We lived through like after Joe Friday's speech, it's like, all right, I think I'll jump off a cliff now. You know,
yeah.
shut them up. But yeah, it's true.
No, but we'd really like to understand it. No.
Yeah, but you know, it's crazy though that people like when you think of like what a kid did in World War II, well, 18, like my great uncle died in the Battle of the Bulge, and he was writing letters like back home, like, I'm scared shitless. This is horrible. This is terrible.
Yeah.
He's maybe 20, maybe.
Yeah.
And and you think of these kids and like, Q and I have worked in the restaurant business. It's like these people have no idea what they're up, and they're not into politics. They're not into the world. It's like, as a country, what can we look forward to when everything is about your status on Instagram or or Facebook?
Really?
It's
Really?
pretty scary stuff. I think that's a little bit scarier than a lot of this, is that we're in the fact of like our political system right now is crumbling before our very eyes, and some people don't even notice it.
Well, and that's again, that's where we come in right now. I mean, there's so much of that going on. The biggest thing that I'm trying to focus on right here, as we all know, is just that the one thing we do know is the virus is real.
Yes.
Right? I mean, there's all these other things that are going on. And I'm just saying, I have my beliefs and I know other people have beliefs, and I know there's things that are and aren't. But the one thing I do know for sure is that this thing is real, and it's not a normal, just a thing, right?
It ain't a normal flu bug.
Not a normal flu bug. So whatever we do with that, let's, do what you will, because we all make our own choices in the end, and period and end of story, right? I mean, we're the only ones that can do us the way we do it.
The only thing that is different is that we all can do what we can do, and we can do ourselves. But if we're doing something that could possibly harm someone else, that's where I wish that more folks would just take a check on themselves and say, okay, yes, I wish I could be at the beach, and yes, I wish I could lay in the sand, and I wish I could do this, and I wish I could do that. And I don't. Unfortunately, it's become a politicized thing, and it's so polarizing. It's ridiculous. But if you just can take another moment and think about who you might hurt, had I ever in my wildest dreams thought that I was going to bring something home to the love of my life, and then she would wind up with a stroke out of this?
Yeah.
And I know that I had it first. I had all the symptoms first. I'm the one that's out there publicly in a huge way every single day of the week. She's not. She goes to work. She works in a very small office. She comes home. And I would never even have dreamed that I could do something like that, or that I would have facilitated something like that. I'm not going to sit here and lament and beat my chest and woe is me, but that's the bottom line. That's what happened.
You're here and you're able to beat your chest if you wanted to. You're here and she's still here. So,
yeah.
But I hear what you're saying. You're the guilt factor that could get involved with that and somehow, right? But it didn't.
It's all about the gratitude now.
It's all about your second round and new revitalization and live what you got and appreciation and all those things that really get slammed in your face if you can see that. And so you've been blessed, man. I mean, as horrible as it is, on the other side, you're blessed.
I didn't lose a job. We've kept working through all of this. We've kept our offices open. We've continued to provide services. We have a new COVID relief fund that we're working on right now, which is strictly for breast cancer patients who are going through, not that they have to be diagnosed with COVID or anything, but if this has affected them from rents or things like that, we have assistance that we can help with, rides to the doctors, meals for you and family. There's things that we're doing. They just have to go to our website at colemanlacounty.org, and they can check that out and see what we're doing to try to help people through this, breast cancer patients through this time. because you're already a really vulnerable population, on top of the fact that you've got all these other things that are coming at you. Just dealing with the breast cancer, with what Angela went through, that was enough. You didn't need to have all this other shit piled on top of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Losing your job, not being able, maybe your husband losing a job, not being able to get enough groceries in the house, those kinds of things. We're there for those breast cancer patients if they need us.
And you said, Mark, the one thing, everything else is kind of running normally. You said there was one thing that they're unable to do right now because of this.
Oh, we can't facilitate mammograms, but that's because because of the closeness of the now let me qualify that. We can't do screening mammograms, which we usually facilitate about 2,000 of those a year, because we believe early detection is the key to survival. But in this particular instance, because the mobile mammography companies and hospitals, that's considered an elective. So going in and getting your annual mammogram, if it has to get put off a month, it has to get put off a month, because there's such close proximity between the technician and the patient that they can't afford to do that. But everything else we're still doing. We're still navigating women through their cancer journey and everything else that we can.
Now, and obviously we're knowing how the government's releasing, and state government. Are you getting any inside scoops as to when that's coming back on board for anybody watching?
No, I have no inside scoop on that at all. I really don't. I pick it up from Gavin the same way everybody else does. In fact, I'm sporting a Gavin do.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you kind of look like Gavin. You sound like him a little bit too.
Yeah, I got the Gavin thing going.
Yeah, he's under a little bit of pressure right now, huh? It's like
Yeah.
there's not a lot you can do that's going to help, and it's like people are going to politicize the hell out of this no matter what. But the federal government and yes, it's political, is not doing what they should have done, and we're seeing in places around the world where at least it was curbed a little bit, and we walked right into the devil's armpit, and so it's terrible.
Well, and now we're
But
just,
you're also in that position. They're winging it. They're winging it. I don't want to say winging it. It's based on science and on data.
Oh, they're winging it.
But they don't know. I mean, when I was first in the hospital, I remember there was, in fact, it was before I actually went into the hospital, saying that masks were bad for you because they held the germs and all that stuff. And I had somebody that's close to me that put that back up on Facebook just like 2 days ago. And I said, number one, old news. Number two, it's wrong. Number three, why are you trying to be a shit stirrer? I said, number four, do you know what I just went through?
Yeah.
And then I lost the nephew that they're wondering whether he was part of this in Philadelphia. Couldn't go back for the funeral. Couldn't be with my brother. I couldn't give my brother a hug and a kiss and say, I'm so sorry.
how old was he? How old was he again?
48. And then I had another nephew that I had to get on his ass to get him to the hospital. He turned, today's actually his birthday. He's 50 today. But he got out 4 days ago. He got out 4 days ago because he was coughing. He had all the symptoms, but he had tested negative. Now they tested him, and he did have the antibody, so he did have it, but the test was a false negative. He was in such bad shape that he cracked 2 ribs. He was coughing so hard.
Wow.
So but this stuff is real. It's a bad dude. It's a bad virus. It's a bad virus. And I pray and hope against all that is, that if we get through this ride, that we don't have another ride later on this fall.
That's been my biggest concern.
Yeah.
As is everybody's. I mean, that's everybody's concern.
Yeah.
So, we just got to be,
Yeah, but Q, is that worth it if we can't go bowling?
You know how I am about bowling, bro. You know how I am about bowling. Listen,
You just go there for the beer
hold on,
and the wings.
hold on 1 second.
Oh no! Wait, you actually have a bowling ball?
He's from Minnesota.
Oh right, good point.
You thought I was kidding. You thought I was kidding the other day when I said that to you. When I said that on the comedy show, right? Johnny
In
was
certain
saying,
and uncertain times, bowling is unessential.
it's essential as hell right now. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. But sure would like to go bowling. Man, I missed that. But I tell you what, Mark, I really appreciate it. So what's the website again? What you said, Susan Coleman to donate?
Just go to colemanlacounty.org.
Okay.
And you can look at it pops up. The very first thing is our COVID thing. You can donate to it. You can, and if you need services, go there and make the call to our line or drop an email to us. All that information is right there, and let us know how we can help, because we don't want this to affect people any more negatively than it already has and that it already will.
Well, that's a beautiful thing. Beautiful thing. Patrick, I appreciate you being here as usual.
Thanks for having me hang out.
Mark, thanks a lot for everything and being here and sharing the story. Hopefully, it'll help. Everybody that's out there right now too. Again, Monday nights, this is going to be something that we're doing, 7 p.m. Next week, join us. We're going to have my good buddy, Lou Jaffe, who's a professor of entrepreneurship over at LMU. It's going to be fun. And also this Thursday, again, Throwdown Thursdays, featuring, hold on, let me do this right from my side. Patrick Ney over there is the hosting. And I believe we've got Wayne Fetterman coming on this week, something like that. So, and it'll be fun. So 8 p.m. Thursday for that. And appreciate everybody's time. Any last words, gentlemen?
Thanks, Q. And Mark, good luck. I hope best to your family and the entire family, and of course your wife. And I hope that we'll be forced to go bowling sooner than later.
Oh, I would enjoy that. I really suck at it.
Me too.
It's all about the beer. I mean,
yeah, it's all about the beer
or the bourbon. So it may be, but
yeah,
whatever.
We all need a little.
It's a classic excuse to get drunk. But that being said, I'll swallow that pill for you to have a happy world again.
Thank you.
That's also known as a happy
giver. Such a giver.
Yeah.
Thank you, Patrick. It was great meeting you. Q, great seeing you. Love you.
Great to meet you. Great to see you.
Have a great rest of the night, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye.
Bye.